everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of My Big Sister podcast. My name's Grace and this is my big sister Josie.
And in today's episode we're going to be talking about screen addiction, social media addiction, and trying to get off our phones.
Yeah, and how to switch off. I feel like this is a very interesting topic because we are both very active social media users.
Well, you more than me, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the Gen Z in me is so used to social media. But yeah, we're going to be talking all about our experience with social media, how we've kind of learned to switch off despite it being part of our jobs.
Yeah.
And then we're going to answer some questions from you guys as always. As always, make sure you're following us on our Instagram and our TikTok at My Big Sister Podcast because we ask you guys for questions every week on there. But yeah, let's get into the topic. Okay, so I feel like Josie, you should start because this was your idea for the episode this week. So what's your experience with social media addiction, and like how do you feel your relationship is to like using your phone too much, or like?
Well, I was thinking about this and I was like, when did this become a thing for me? And I think it was COVID and 2020, and just like the whole world basically was reduced to just being online because we were all stuck in our houses and we had no other outlets,
and the only place you'd see people apart from the people you live with was on your phone.
Yeah, exactly. So I think for a lot of people that's where the real social media addiction came in.
Well, and I think it's weird because like before then I would, to be social, I would meet up with people, whereas I feel like a lot of people realize that like you can just stay in your house and still kind of feel like you're seeing other people, and you just can stay in your house and do that. So then after lockdown ended, like I know people had a lot of like anxiety around going back out to the outside world again. So I think people felt safer just like staying inside. So then they now felt like, why do we need to go out when we can just see everything we need to see and do on our phone? Which is kind of scary. It kind of reminds me of WALL-E, the film. I feel like for you especially, because during lockdown you were living halfway across the world from your family, so you could only see us through your phone.
And also another thing that happened in 2020 was I started a challenge to sketch every country in the world, and so I suddenly like got quite a big following on TikTok and stuff.
So Josie started off on social media being an art account in lockdown. And you were painting like every day and you were posting a video every
and I was getting a lot of
TikTok.
views, and it was kind of crazy, like the dopamine that was coming into my brain from all those views.
And you were like getting you got to like 100k followers like quite quickly, didn't you? And you were being interviewed by like a local newspaper, and like
it all just sort of like blew up. And I think it was that thing of 2020, like because everyone was online, I think it was easier to blow up, and like TikTok was more of a
there was so many eyes
new
on
thing.
Every TikTok.
There were less people on TikTok, and so it was easier to blow up.
Less creators,
less competition. There weren't many like art accounts on TikTok at that point, so I was like one of the first few like big art accounts on TikTok. But now, I mean, it's kind of settled down a bit more and it's not as crazy anymore. But I think that was kind of contributed to me being a bit more on my phone, and like, because before then, in my personal life, I never really posted that much on social media. Like I wasn't one of those people that would post a lot on like their personal accounts. Like I would maybe post once a year like a summary of things, or I don't know, I just never really posted. So I was going from that to suddenly like having all of these followers and likes.
And I feel like maybe you didn't even use TikTok yourself, like at first. I feel like I was the one that said to you like, you should post on TikTok. And you were like, oh, I don't really know
I
what
didn't
that
understand
is.
how it worked, and then it was one of my first videos just got over 1 million views and blew up, and so I went from nothing to suddenly having all these followers, and I think it really messed up something in my brain, like dopamine receptors.
Followers to like
and because it was 2020, there was not much else to be focusing on.
There was nothing exciting going on, so to have that in your phone be going on, it's very exciting.
So that all happened, and then I think I just kind of got addicted from there. And I don't know, when I say addicted, I feel like it's probably to the same level that most people are on their phones. I don't think I'm particularly obsessed to the point where I'm spending every second of my life on my phone, but I think pretty much everyone is addicted, and it's not like an unusual thing that I don't feel like I'm more on my phone than usual, or at least at this time I don't think I was more on my phone than most people, but still, I think just
everyone
everyone
is addicted. Yeah,
everyone
I feel
is
like
that
if I
way.
was to think of both of us, I would say I'm probably more addicted to my phone than you, because it's my full-time job. So like, I don't have all work like 9 to 5 in the day. I'm not like focusing on something else. I'm just focusing on my phone because my job is on my phone. And then to socialize with people, I feel like I've grown up that I contact all my friends like on Snapchat. I still talk to most of my friends on Snapchat, which is
I don't even use Snapchat.
I feel like I have the way that I was growing up. Like, I'm 10 years younger than Josie, so I was growing up like with it. So my only memories of communicating with friends like in secondary school was social media. So I'm so used to that I'm doing that constantly.
My earliest memory of communicating with my friends on my phone is spending 10p per text.
Yeah, so I feel like you're more precious with your communications. But I feel like I don't worry. I don't think I've got like an addiction. I just know it's my job, and I know that obviously I'm on my phone a lot, and my screen time, I haven't checked it, but it's quite a lot.
It would be interesting to compare our average screen times.
Yeah, because but then my screen time is always split up between like my iPad, my personal phone, my work phone, so I would have to like add them all up.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I do actually spend a lot of time watching podcasts and YouTube videos on my iPad. Like, I would say I'm not always on my phone, actually. I'm more like, if I'm cleaning around the house, I always have something playing, but it's more going to be like a YouTube video on my iPad or something. So probably a lot of my screen time is like my iPad.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, not all screen time is equally bad. Like, I feel like if I'm watching a YouTube video,
and like
generally I am either learning something or I've actively chosen to watch that to relax, or maybe I'm watching it while I'm doing something else. So that's not necessarily always that bad, I don't think. But what I think is a problem is when I'm just on TikTok and scrolling
or like
for no reason.
If you like like sometimes I feel like I can't go to the toilet without scrolling on TikTok, and I feel like a lot of people have the same thing.
Or
like I can't
like, eat without.
If I go to
something.
shower, I'm gonna bring my phone in the bathroom with me, and that's weird. Like when I'm brushing my teeth, I'm on TikTok. And I don't think that's normal.
No.
But then if I bring my iPad in while I'm doing my skincare and I'm watching like a relaxing video, I feel like that's more kind of healthy. Whereas scrolling on TikTok and like not being able to do a task for like 10 seconds without being on TikTok, I feel like that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, and I think sometimes I've noticed that I'm doing it because maybe I just can't be alone with my thoughts. And that's when I think it's maybe a bit of a problem.
But I think that's why I play like podcasts all the time and like YouTube videos, because I just would rather focus on listening to that and like learning something from that, or like being entertained, especially if I'm home alone. Like, it gets a bit lonely if you just can't hear anything, like no voices all day. So I'd rather like play a podcast and feel like I'm like having a conversation with the people on the podcast almost. Like,
well, it's like that thing, like, do you remember when you were a kid and you would actually get bored, like, because there was nothing to do, because you didn't have social media or anything? But these days it's actually impossible to get bored.
There's always something
which
to, like,
is quite weird. The experience of being bored doesn't exist in our lives anymore. That's strange, and maybe that's a good thing, because being bored isn't really a fun thing. But then I think when I'm bored, when I was a kid, that was when I would go and do something more creative, or, you know, invent something or imagine something, or I don't know. I just feel like we kind of miss that a little bit when we're just consuming all the time. I
always think this. So I went and got my nails done the other day. The only time, one of the main times in my life where I think of like good ideas is when I'm at the nail salon, because I can't be on my phone and I don't really talk in the nail salon. I'm just quite a quiet customer, so I just sit there alone with my thoughts staring into space, and my nails take like an hour, so it's quite a long time. Like, I'm not used to not being on my phone for a whole hour. And the same as like if I'm showering, I would normally have music on or a podcast, but I have thoughts in the shower, and like I feel like I come up with some of my best ideas but then in the nail salon.
That makes you think then, like, if you were on your phone less, would you have more good ideas? If you could make other times throughout your day where you could be off your phone,
or
could
like
you come up with more ideas?
I come up with ideas like before bed. Like, once I put my phone down and I'm going to sleep, I feel like I come up with ideas then as well. So I feel like maybe I should put some like times in place where I'm like, go and be alone with your thoughts. I feel like in summer I would do that by like going and sitting in the garden, like sunbathing and just like relaxing, whereas in winter it's like, when
are you gonna do that?
I'm just gonna sit on my sofa and stare into space and think. Like, I don't know. I feel like I can't think. I feel like when I'm like on holiday relaxing, that would make sense.
Yeah.
But just in winter, especially in the UK, it's like,
to do that.
where am I going to just sit and think?
So one thing that I've been doing lately, and obviously I had to bring this up, is I've been doing knitting.
Yeah.
And that for me is like, that is my version of that, because I can just sit there, and sometimes I'll watch something while I'm doing it, but you can just sit there and it's kind of like meditation. Like you're still doing something, so you don't feel bored because you're focusing on what you're doing with your hands. But then I've noticed that my thoughts start wandering, and it is a bit like meditation. And I kind of think through, like, even if it's just thinking about what I've got to do on my to-do list and things like that, it just kind of gives my brain a space to
I feel like that's like me when I am like even just cleaning around the house, or like if I've got like a physical task, like
when you're doing something with your hands,
or like for Christmas I got some colouring books and colouring pens. I've only done it a few times, but like when I've been doing it, then I'm thinking, but then you're not bored because your hands are like busy doing something.
Yeah, so I think, that's a good tip if anyone's struggling with what
Find,
do I even
like,
do.
a hobby or like an activity that's like, even when I'm cooking, that's another time I really enjoy cooking, because, and I like if I have a few hours in the evening, I'm going to pick something to make that takes the longest time, because I'm like, I'm not just going to make like pesto pasta, like I've got 2 hours, I'm going to make some complex dinner.
Good.
And
I never do that.
Well, one, I love eating, so if I put more time, it's going to taste better. And then I have like 2 hours where I'm not on my phone, because I can't be scrolling on TikTok while I'm cooking. I do normally have a podcast on or music, but I feel like that's, your brain still has time to think. Like,
it's different.
So when I'm cooking, I enjoy that. So I would say if anyone out here is struggling with like TikTok mainly, just scrolling their whole day, try and find like a hobby, an activity, something you can do with your hands, whether that's cooking, knitting like Josie, or just like organising. I don't know, I feel like there's lots of things you might like not do, or you just think, it's easier just to sit on the sofa and scroll on TikTok for an hour if you've got a free hour of your day, whereas you could spend it doing like a hobby or like organising your house or
but it is
whatever.
hard, and I completely understand why people don't, because sometimes you're just so tired and exhausted.
Well, if you're physically tired, you don't want to stand up for 2 hours and cook in the kitchen.
Knitting is the perfect
because
solution.
You can lie down and knit.
You can literally do it in bed, but you still feel like you're achieving something.
One thing that, I mean, is still screen time, but I have had like forgotten you can get games on your phone. And recently, like, I've downloaded a few games on my phone, even just like Candy Crush, which I feel like Candy Crush is designed to like make you addicted to the game. But I feel like that's better for my mental health to be on Candy Crush for half an hour than to scroll on TikTok for half an hour.
That's true. I was actually I need to get back into it, but my husband has an Xbox. We don't really use it that much. We're not like gamers, but I just randomly decided to download Hogwarts Legacy, which is, as a millennial, I love Harry Potter, and you basically, it's not much of a game, there's not much to do, you kind of just wander around Hogwarts, and it's very relaxing.
Or it's like The Sims, like I don't have The Sims at the moment because my laptop doesn't have enough storage, but in lockdown I downloaded Sims in my parents' like desktop computer, and I was on that all the time. And
I do think that is it's kind of more creative and relaxing, and I think it is better for your mental health. Obviously, you can get addicted to gaming as well, but from everything I've heard, like, I think it is better than just mindlessly scrolling, because you're kind of actively doing something.
And like the chance of seeing like harmful content or like comparing yourself, you're not going to be doing that on a game, whereas you're going to be doing that on social media apps.
And I've heard good things about Animal Crossing. I kind of want to get that.
Well, people have like Nintendo Switches.
I really want to get one of those.
Or just like reading a book as well. Is something good to do that's not like screen time, but it's still interesting.
I personally love doing that, but to be honest, lately I haven't been reading as much. I don't know why. I think it's because I've been knitting, and I haven't figured out how to knit and read at the same time. But I could listen to audiobooks.
A lot of people love their Kindles. Like I know Sophia Tuxford, who I follow, who's this influencer that also has a podcast. She's always posting about her Kindle, and like she's got all the Kindle accessories, so like in bed it's like like high, you know, like mounted on a
Yeah,
thing,
you
and
can
she's
get
got
a
like a button.
clicker.
Yeah. So I feel like that could be a fun thing for if you're interested in reading. To,
Yeah,
like,
I
get
do
into
love
that
my
whole
Kindle. I've had the same
thing.
Kindle since 2012, so it's very old and
Yeah.
very slow. I think I need to get a new one, but yeah, I love my Kindle.
Yeah.
So do you think there's ever been a time, because you're kind of saying that it doesn't really bother you too much, has there ever been a time when you have noticed that your screen time is just getting a bit too much?
Honestly, I feel like I don't really know where to draw the line, because for me, screen time is work. So I honestly do think the majority of the time I'm spending on my phone, I'm working.
Yeah.
Because I have so many things. Like I've said before, my job, I love my job so much, but it definitely is time consuming. And especially now that we have the podcast, like, so every day I've got to be keeping up with my drafts for the TikTok clips for the podcast and my own TikToks, and I've got to be posting them on YouTube Shorts and Reels.
Yeah.
Like, there's like endless tasks I could do for that, like, are for my job. And then also when I get brand deals, like texting my manager and like filming ads and editing videos and stuff. So I feel like most of my screen time is work, so I don't feel like guilty or like bad about it. And even you could say, like, when I'm scrolling on TikTok, like, just for fun, I'm also, if I notice a trend, I'm going to save that and film that the next day, or like saving sound. So I don't really see it as bad, because I know it's my job. But obviously, if you don't have social media as your job, then I feel like that's when maybe it is more kind of alarming, if you're spending your whole day on your phone and you're maybe neglecting other parts of your life, like your work or
Do you ever feel like, though, maybe it's just because you're Gen Z and you've just grown up with it more, I feel like if I'm on my phone for too long, like, I start to get a headache, I start to feel tired, like my eyeballs start to hurt. It just like physically makes me feel gross. Do you ever get that?
I don't really get that from my phone. I feel like the only times I've had that is like when I was at uni and like on my laptop all day, like writing an essay. I feel like that's when I would get that feeling. Or like when I've been like editing the podcast on my laptop. I feel like it's more of a laptop thing for me. Okay. If I'm like sat, because I feel like with a laptop you're sat in the same position and you're like sat at a desk for hours. Whereas if I'm just on my phone, I'm gonna be like walking around my house doing stuff, watching a TikTok here, watching one there. Like, I feel like it's more kind of casual use, so I don't feel as like fully engrossed and like my brain doesn't hurt as much.
I feel like I'm the opposite. Maybe that's just what I'm used to, because I've sort of grown up.
You've grown up with a laptop, but you're not used to the phone.
And not saying, obviously, like, I'm used to my phone, but I think there's just something about the small screen and like being like this and being all like crunched up, and I don't know. It just makes me feel weird. So I just try and, like, if I notice that I've been on it for too long, I'll just try and step away from it. But I think I've noticed that I'm on it more and I'm scrolling on TikTok more when I'm not having a happy like period of my life, or like in 2020 or during COVID, I was definitely on it way more. Whereas if I'm a bit happier or there's other things going on, then I'm just less interested in it.
I feel like when I think of like when I'm spending more time on my phone in winter, I definitely am inside more and like on my phone more, whereas I feel like in summer, because you're going to be outside more and like when the sun's out, you're going to be spending more time outside and like maybe meeting up with people in real life. Because I feel like in winter, like when it comes to meeting up with my friends, if it's horrible weather outside and it's dark at 3 p.m, like, it's easier to just text them or FaceTime them or voice note them. Whereas in summer, it's like, let's just go for a quick like drink at like a pub garden, and it feels more like normal to be outside. So I feel like if I'm thinking of screen time, I feel like mine is like I'm on my phone much more in winter than I am in summer.
Should we compare our screen times? I feel like that would be interesting.
But as I said,
But you also have like 3 different phones, so
I have a work phone and a personal
accurate.
phone. I can't check my work phone because we're currently filming on it right now for the podcast. But I can check my personal phone. I would say this is the phone I'm on the most. And I'm not even sure if it adds them up together. I'm not sure. Maybe it does add my 2 phones up together. Oh yeah, it does. So what's your one for last week or this week? It's on
last week. Let's do last week.
Change it.
My average is...
How do I change it to last week? Okay, got it.
Okay, so my average for last week is 5 hours and 38 minutes.
Mine's 8 hours and 8 minutes.
Wow.
But my job is social media, so I feel like 3 hours extra a day than you. That's bad for you, because like I spend more than 3 hours a day working.
True.
What's your top apps?
Safari.
Your top app?
My top app is Safari.
Is that like knitting?
That's weird.
Were you on like a website for ages? How many hours is that?
4 hours.
Oh.
That's weird. I don't know if
Were
that's
you on
right.
like a knitting website open on your phone for hours?
What was that from? I'm not sure. That is quite weird, isn't it? Because I don't think I'm like loving Safari all the time.
Mine is my top app on my screen time last week is YouTube with 17 hours, 36 minutes. So that shows you I'm always listening to something.
Yeah.
I've always got a podcast I'm playing on YouTube.
My YouTube is only 3 hours, but I think maybe I watch YouTube on my laptop.
Or
sometimes
iPad.
or iPad.
My second app is TikTok, which is 14 hours. But a week, like that's my job. Like how long is a work week? Like 40 hours.
So my TikTok last week is 4 hours.
Okay. But it's my job, and it's not your job, like
but
me, so
I want to say that my TikTok is so down, and it's because of knitting. And sorry if I keep going on about it, but I'm quite obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And I've not been scrolling since because I don't have time. I've got to knit.
My next app is Snapchat, 3 hours, 38 minutes. So Snapchat, that's on the, like I only use Snapchat for communication purposes with my friends. So I've been talking to my friends for 3 hours last week.
Yeah,
Then Instagram is less than that, which is 3 hours.
Yeah, my Instagram is 3 hours. So we're kind of on Instagram about the same.
Yeah.
My WhatsApp is 3 hours and 22 minutes.
WhatsApp isn't even on. Oh no, WhatsApp 3 hours, 11 minutes.
Okay. So
yeah.
Patreon 2 hours.
My Patreon's an hour and 20. I listened to people's podcast Patreons.
JamieOliver.com 1 hour.
I was on Deliveroo for 50 minutes, which is expected. I was on my clock app for an hour and 10 minutes.
See, does that count?
Because that's me setting my alarm every night.
Yeah. Oh, that's...
Because I'm on it for like 5 minutes each night setting my alarm, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like this isn't like fully accurate.
Well, that was interesting. But yeah, I think the difference is you're using it for your work. So
and like say this week I've been on my camera app for 7 hours. That's because we're filming the podcast. Those phones filming us right now, that's counting as my screen time hours.
Yeah, that doesn't really count.
So like it's hard to count that as like my personal issue when it's more just work purposes.
Okay, well,
so I feel like that's not even that bad.
Yeah,
8 hours is a work day.
Yeah,
and if my screen time's 8 hours a day, then that's
I think that's the thing that's weird is phones now, they are just everything that you would ever use, like a camera, an alarm clock,
music,
a calculator,
radio,
radio, everything that used to be all on separate things now just on your phone. So that's why
so I feel like it's weird to like, I know obviously some people's screen time is bad, but like most of those things I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like they're just things like...
I think it's probably a problem if you're 24 hours.
Yeah.
Or even 12 hours.
12 hours would maybe be more worrying. But I think it just really depends what you're doing in your week and what your job is. Like if your job is working in retail and you have to put your phone away for the whole shift, then you're not going to be on it as much as someone whose job is social media.
Yeah.
So it really just depends like what your life looks like and like how much you're on your phone. But yeah, I think, should we get into some questions?
Yeah,
so
I think we've had quite some interesting questions.
Yeah, I asked on the Instagram if you do want to get involved. Reminder again to follow us at My Big Sister Podcast on Instagram. But let's have a look what questions you guys asked. So the first question was, someone said, want to reduce my screen time, but the whole world is online. Which I think is like what we've been talking about. Like it's so hard to reduce your screen time when... you can do everything. You could do everything you need to do on your phone rather than in real life.
I think there is this feeling sometimes when you're online that the whole world is online. But then I think when you go, like, for example, TikTok trends with clothing, there's all these subcategories and little niches.
There's like outfits where if you posted it on TikTok, everyone would be like, oh my god, that's so old fashioned, like no one wears that anymore. And then you go in real life and you're like, no, people wear skinny jeans still. Like
you go to the shopping centre and you realise that everyone is just not following these trends that TikTok makes it seem like everyone is doing. Yeah,
I feel like if you're quite like, what's the word people say?
Chronically
online, then you might feel like the whole world is online and you're missing out if you're not on your phone all the time. But I think just trying to make plans in person, what I like to do is go shopping in person. I feel like that makes me feel more like connected to what I'm buying. And even if it's cheaper to buy it online, go around the shopping centre, and then you can still order the items online later that night, but like to actually just go and like look at the clothes and like try them on, or like
I think
stuff like that.
definitely seeing things, it's very interesting, especially with buying things online, is when you see them in real life, it feels less exciting in a weird way. And I think that makes you realize that sometimes when you see things online, it's almost like this fantasy. It's like something that you're dreaming about, you wish you could have it, but then if you actually physically have it in front of you, it's not as exciting. But I think that's true of a lot of other things, not just products, but people's lives, like lifestyles, or I don't know, designer handbags, or things that you see online. It almost makes it into this magical thing that you're dreaming about.
Attached. And I think, half of the excitement of ordering a product online is like you've never seen it before. So you're paying for that ability to open the package and see that item. Whereas if you've already seen it in store, it's like, well, half the excitement's gone. Like, I don't know if I actually need this actually to keep now.
But I think that's really an interesting test and then I think that's why it is important to, if you can, go and look at it in real life, because then you'll know for sure what you'll actually feel about it.
Yeah, especially like, I feel like I've been doing a lot of furniture shopping recently, and like going to like sit on a sofa in real life, and then you might realize it's actually like so uncomfy, or like smaller than you were expecting, and it's just stuff like that. Or like if you're buying makeup, like the shades of stuff you can never fully tell online, then you might go in store and it's like a way different color than you expected, and you wouldn't have actually bought it.
And when you hold a product that you've been looking at online in your hand, you realize it's just like this small little makeup product that's not going to change your life that much, but when it's online, it's on a screen and it seems more exciting. And I don't know, there's just something about getting offline and seeing things in real life. I don't know,
but I feel like to try and like stop the feeling that everything is online, try and, if you can, meet up with friends in person. Maybe go shopping like on the weekend and in person. And then even like, I feel like going to the cinema is something I don't do as often nowadays, because you're always watching it. Like, you have so many film options on your TV on Netflix.
I've been going to the cinema more
Cinema
lately,
is nice because you can't go on your phone in the cinema too, so you have to really focus on the film,
and you're watching it with other people, which is quite a nice experience, even if they're just random strangers. It's quite nice to watch something with other people.
And I feel like even just like going out for dinner rather than like even ordering delivery to your house, like I feel like just putting yourself outside and like going to situations where you're not going to be on your phone, like going out to dinner with friends, you're not going to be sat there scrolling, whereas if you just get delivery, you might like, end up going on your phone. So I feel like putting yourself in situations where like you wouldn't want to use your phone in that situation, like meeting up with friends in real life, or like doing stuff in person. Someone asked how to not get sucked into social media and how to not to feel guilty about not being productive all the time. I feel like we talked about this in our first ever episode, the one back in January, so maybe go watch that if you haven't. But I feel like we said in that first of all, a lot of the productivity influences you see will be just making stuff up. So once you realize that, you will stop comparing yourself as much, because you'll realize that a lot of these videos, like the 5 a.m. morning routines and everything, are just not accurate. So that's thing that's helped me a lot.
And I think the idea of productivity in itself is a bit kind of messed up. It's very like being in this capitalist society where we feel like we have to be productive and produce every second of the day, but in reality we actually have so much technology that makes our lives easier and faster, and that actually means that we don't need to be as productive, because
all the time,
because a lot of things that would have taken us like hours to do in the past, we can now do in 1 second with AI or whatever. So the reality is that we should be using that to our advantage and having more spare time and doing things we want to do for fun. But weirdly, we've kind of twisted it to mean that we should be more productive and doing more things and starting a business and doing this. But I don't know if that's necessarily the right thing for everyone. And
I said this in the first episode. One of my favorite quotes is rest is productive, because making sure that you have time to rest and like you have time to switch off from social media, and like give yourself breathing time will mean that when you are working or like doing stuff, you're gonna have more energy to do those things.
And scrolling isn't resting.
No.
Because even though you might be physically resting your body, your brain is very engaged when you're looking at things. If you think about the amount of information that goes into your brain, if you just scroll on TikTok for an hour, how many videos do you think that is? Like so many videos, so many people, so many ideas, and it's very overwhelming for the brain.
Yeah, but it's like when people are like, we were never meant to see this many people, or like know this many people existed.
Yeah, exactly. It's too much. I think it's very overwhelming for the human brain. Even if you don't realize it, even if it's more of a subconscious thing, you are getting overwhelmed.
Yeah. Do you ever get that? Do you ever get this thing where you're super tired if you've had a whole day out where you haven't been able to be on your phone that much? You get to bed, and even though you know you're so tired that you're like falling asleep, you feel like you have to go on your phone for like half an hour
to catch up.
Yeah. Like I feel like if I'm so tired, like I specifically remember when I went to the Wicked movie premiere, I hadn't been on my phone like during the film and like during the premiere, so for like 4 hours, and I had taken lots of pictures and like I hadn't looked at them yet, and I didn't know like if I'd got any good pictures of the carpet, and we were so tired, we were exhausted, we were freezing cold because it had been raining. I got back to the hotel at like midnight, and I was like in bed, sat there like, I need to look at my photos, I need to like be posting, I need to update my Instagram stories, like but I knew I was so tired, but I was like, I just couldn't put my phone down.
Well, I think maybe in that case, I mean, you did have a lot of good content.
Yeah.
You had a photo of Ariana.
It's just crazy that like I couldn't leave it for like 6 hours to sleep, like I had to do it there and then. But I guess that also goes with like work pressure and like trying to be productive pressure in my brain of like, you need to be the first person to post about the Wicked premiere because that's going to get the most views, and like you need to post the Ariana picture before anyone else does. Like, so I feel like that a lot of the stuff I'm saying, I feel like in this episode is also based on the fact that I have this as a job. Well, so I have like a different experience than most people.
Yeah, I mean, we can give as much advice as we want, but the reality is we're all addicted as everyone else in the world is. And I mean, there's so many documentaries and information about how these apps are actively designed to make you addicted. Keep us addicted. There's so much information about that out there, and you know, I've watched a lot of that stuff and learned about it, but there's one thing knowing about it, and there's another thing actually being able to disconnect from it. And I don't know, and this isn't to say that social media is always bad. Like,
no,
there's so much great stuff that comes from it. Like, I started knitting because I saw a TikTok about someone making a jumper for the first time, and I was like, oh, maybe I could try that. Or, you know, connecting with other artists, or
learning things.
Hobbies.
I've learned so much from social media.
And just, you know, learning about the world or connecting with other people's ideas. There's so much positive things about it as well. But I think it's just when it starts to make you feel bad, or you feel like you're actually wasting parts of your life that you would rather spend doing something else. I think that's when it becomes a bit of a problem.
Someone asked, do you ever want to delete social media because it's too stressful? I feel like I have a lot of friends that do this. Like, one of my best friends, Ella, she's always deleting TikTok for like a few days and then she re-downloads it. But I feel like obviously I can't do that because I need to post for my job. But I feel like I never have gotten to that point where I'm so stressed that I wanted to actually delete the app or like delete my accounts.
At one point I had those apps that kind of helps you control how much time you're spending. So I had this one called Jomo, which was quite good, and this other one called Opal. I think they kind of do the same thing where they block you out of it for a certain, and you can do a hard block where you physically can't get back into the app for a certain amount of time. So those are quite good if you find yourself really struggling with it. And I kind of did stop posting for about 2 years at one point because I kind of, as I was saying earlier, with all the dopamine rush from all the views, and then the crash when your views aren't as good, I found that really quite difficult. So I just sort of stepped away from it for a couple of years, and now when I post, like, nothing ever goes that viral, but I don't really care anymore. Like, I used to really care about it, but it's not really the end of the world to me anymore.
But were you still like consuming on social media during those 2 years?
I was, yeah.
So you didn't actually have a break?
Yeah,
from
so I didn't have a break from consuming. It was more a break from creating, which is actually the opposite to what I would ideally like to do. Like, I like making videos. I find it really fun, like making a YouTube video or whatever. So ideally I would like to just create and not consume, but that's kind of impossible because, like you were saying, like you get your ideas from scrolling, and I don't know. It's all a bit tricky, really.
I feel like there are some creators who literally now like are big enough that they just post and leave. Like they never go through their comments, they never like reply to anyone. And I feel like that could work if you're like a creator who's trying to spend less time. But then, yeah, you're not going to be up to date on trends and stuff. But there's some creators who like don't post based on trends and have their own kind of style and ideas anyway. You don't have to post
trends, really.
Yeah. But like I feel like I'm thinking of like Emma Chamberlain. I feel like she's not like involved in the online community anymore. She just posts her podcast and then leaves.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the extent.
That's kind of the dream, really.
Yeah, but then I love interacting with people on my socials, so like I would feel a bit bad. Like I like replying to comments. Like I want people to feel like, you know, we're having a conversation. I just don't want to be like just shouting out to people and not I
think everyone's different, and obviously everyone has different experiences. Some people will probably have loads of haters depending on what they're posting about.
Yeah, I guess some comment sections like you don't want to open it.
Whereas I think you have quite nice commenters. Obviously you still have crazy people sometimes, but
well, I think with my comments, like I generally, when I post like say an Instagram reel, I'm going to be reading the comments for the first few days, and then if the video goes like viral, I probably won't read the comments because just I know it won't be my followers anymore. Yeah, it's like the scary people come then. But in the first few days, it's just my audience. So, like I know they're really nice, and I'm gonna want to like be talking to them. But yeah, so I've never really felt compelled to delete my apps, but I feel like that could be a good idea. Like if it wasn't my job, I feel like that might be a good idea to like switch off for a weekend, maybe delete TikTok for a weekend or something.
Yeah, or just stop yourself from using it.
I know Apple has like those things where you can do like limit to an hour of screen time a day,
myself,
but I always just press ignore.
Yeah, those things aren't strict enough for me because I'll just click ignore straight away.
Someone said, how do you think I can lower my screen time? I set 4 hours daily, but I keep changing it. I've got no hobbies.
Well, 4 hours is actually not that bad, I don't think, in the grand
scheme of things. But is that just because we both were like on our phones too much? Like that is quite a lot of time if you like have a full-time job or like have school.
Well, the comment about having no hobbies, I think that is something to investigate. Why don't you feel like you have any hobbies?
Try and figure out what hobbies, even if your hobby is like getting interested in like films and like watching films. I feel like watching a film is better for your brain than like being on your phone all the time.
Yeah, a hobby doesn't have to be something where you spend lots of money on something.
It could be like becoming a fan of Taylor Swift, like, and then you want to spend time watching her documentary.
Well, then your screen time would probably be like scrolling on Taylor TikTok.
Okay, but like I feel like there's hobbies that aren't just like the ones you would think of when you think of a hobby.
Like art,
like joining a fandom, like a community of people, or like maybe gaming, like finding a game. Like I know people play those like physical games, like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, and like you can find friends through that, or like a sport. Like there's lots of hobbies that
sport or
you could do if you're
plants or gardening if you have a
like
garden.
Decorating your house, cleaning your house, cooking.
Cooking is a good one.
So many things
because everyone needs to eat food, so you pretty much can do cooking
I love
every
eating,
day.
So I'm very happy to cook for myself and spend time doing that.
What else? Well, knitting. Obviously, I know I keep going on about knitting, but if anyone out there feels like they might want to knit, you should definitely give it a try, because all you need is one ball of yarn and some knitting needles, and that's it, and you can start. It's actually very accessible and doesn't have to be super expensive to start off with. What else? What other hobbies are there? Getting into running, that's one that couldn't be me. I mean,
that's my worst nightmare, but I respect the runners. I respect the runners.
It's not for everyone, but all you need is a pair of trainers and that's it.
Or just walking. Like our mum loves going on walks all the time.
Yeah, like finding places
like hot
in your local
walks,
area.
Go out in nature, and even if like still listening to a podcast. I know that's still kind of screen time, but like going on a walk and listening to music or a podcast, so then your brain's still engaged with something, but you're not like scrolling because you're on a walk.
Yeah, and just think about if you're really like, I don't know what to do, just have a think about what you're interested in, or have a think about when you were a kid, what did you like to do? Because I think a hobby is kind of going back to being a kid. It's like playing, it's having fun, it's not supposed to be so serious, and it's not supposed to be super productive or anything. Like it's just fun, it's just what you enjoy. So maybe have a think about what you used to like to do when you were a kid. What classes did you like the most, like, or if you're still in school, what classes are your favorite classes, and what kind of hobbies could relate to that?
Yeah, I think just finding things to do that outside your phone is going to help. And also like making the effort to meet up with friends, or like, I know it's still screen time, but like FaceTiming your friend for an hour rather than scrolling on TikTok. I feel like that's not
really screen time. I feel like that is good. Like,
it's a better use of time. Yeah. Someone said, I've just re-downloaded Instagram after 4 years. How do I stay active on the app but also protect my peace? I feel like that's a hard question. I mean, you could take a leaf out of Emma Chamberlain's book where I was saying how like I feel like she just posts and then leaves the app, which I feel like you could do as like a creator, but I think in terms of like protecting your peace, say on Instagram, if you see an account that you don't like or is making you feel bad, like mute them or unfollow them or block them if they're really like getting to you. I feel like we forget that you can really like curate your feed to be what you want. And say if TikTok is showing you these videos which are making you feel really bad, hold down and press not interested, or hold down and block the account. Like no one's going to take it personally if you're blocking them because their content's like triggering you or making you feel bad. So I feel like really curating your feeds and making sure you're only following people that make you feel better about yourself, or even if it's someone like in real life, so you don't want to unfollow, but just like muting them, you can do that on Instagram so you don't see their posts anymore. And kind of the opposite to blocking is you can actually kind of find things you want to see and follow those accounts, follow that, and then start interacting with those, or train your algorithm like what you want to see rather than not always just what you don't want to see, because then that's when you can get the positive content that actually will be good and that you actually enjoy. Someone said, do you have any tips to stay focused while studying? Loving the podcast, something you love. Thank you. I feel like that's so hard because TikTok only existed when I was just finishing my A-levels and like when I was at uni, and even then it was so much harder to study with TikTok in the back of my brain, and like I just check my phone for 1 second to check a text, and then suddenly I've been on TikTok for an hour and I haven't written any of my essay. So I feel like that's so hard, and I honestly feel for anyone that's growing up now, like starting school with all these social media
I was
apps. Lucky
in that I didn't have that. Like Instagram came out my first year of uni, so it just wasn't really a thing. You couldn't really it was still at the point where Instagram, you could reach the end of Instagram, like you could scroll and you could have seen everything that was on there, whereas now it's just endless. So I don't know if I'm the best person to answer this question, because I don't think I would be able to cope very well if I had it when I was studying. I'm trying to think like what I did at uni. So when I was doing my A-levels, what I would do when I was revising was I would put on like lo-fi music on YouTube. There's these like live streams that like constantly play like study kind of music. And you can even get like these study with me videos. I mean, I've talked before about how I used to watch all these study YouTubers, but I mean more like chill. Like you can get these videos where it's like a little cartoon girl like studying at her desk, and then it plays like study music in the background. And I used to really love having those on. I also used to listen to like karaoke versions of popular songs, because I feel like if I listen to actual songs with lyrics, I start like typing the lyrics into my essay, whereas if you're listening to like like on Bridgerton where they have like the classical versions of popular songs, I feel like you can listen to those on Spotify and like have that as like your revision music. I feel like I did need to have music on because my brain, like I need something else going on to be able to concentrate. I think just you're gonna have to put your phone in another room. I think that's the only thing you can really do. I know there was this like study technique called the Pomodoro technique I used to do, where like 15 minutes,
I think you study for 20 minutes and then you have a 5-minute break or something, and there was these timers like you could just search up on Google. Is it 25 minutes and then you have a 5-minute break, something like that. So I would lock my phone away for those 25 minutes and then go and check it for 5 minutes and then go back to studying.
Another good one that I've heard people do is accountability partners. So it's basically where you can either do it with a friend, or there's actually websites where they'll just partner you with a random person on the internet, and you just say, hello, I'm here. You sit down, and it kind of forces you to focus because there's someone else on the other end of the phone who's also focusing.
Yeah, I feel like studying with friends. Studying with friends, when I used to do it, we would end up just talking.
I think maybe it's better with a phone call. I don't know.
I feel like in person, if you find someone that's actually serious about their work and you know they're going to call you out if you're on your phone. But me and Ella would just like mess around and ignore. But if I did it, like say my boyfriend, he's quite studious. So when I used to sit with him and like both do uni work, like we would like, you know, not talk and both just sit there. But then sometimes I'd end up scrolling on ASOS and pretending to be writing my essay. But I think, just locking your phone in another room is the best thing you can do, really. And then I used to get worried, like, what if someone's trying to contact me? But I would I have my phone set so that if someone's called me twice, it will ring. So I always know, like, I tell anyone if there's an emergency, call me twice, because then I'll hear it.
One thing that kind of helped me with that, weirdly, which doesn't really make sense because it's actually adding another screen, but my Apple Watch, I feel like helps me detach from my phone a little bit more.
Because you'll know if someone's calling you.
Yeah, because I can see everything that's happening, but something about it being a smaller screen, it just doesn't, you're not going to get sucked in. So I can just look down when someone's WhatsApp me, I can see what they've WhatsApp me, but I then can know if it's actually something I need to reply to straight away or not. And so that kind of helps me actually like separate from my phone a bit more.
Yeah, because I feel like if I don't have my phone, I'm like imagining there's 100 exciting things going on that I'm missing.
Maybe you need to get an Apple Watch.
Yeah, I did. I have before had like Fitbits, which do that, which give you the notifications.
Do they still give you your like WhatsApps?
It will tell you, your notifications, but you can't like go in the app on it. But you can just see what the message was, or like see that you have a Snapchat. But yeah, I feel like just putting your phone in another room is really the only thing you can do. That's when I was writing my uni essays, I would sit and watch Friends, which is probably bad, and I do not focus 100% on my uni essays, but I would sit and watch Friends and put my phone in another room, so if I get bored, I can watch the screen for a few seconds and then go back to my essay, because I would have it on like a low volume and just Friends kind of playing in the background.
I couldn't do that because I would just end up just watching it and not doing
But Friends is a show where like you don't need to pay attention, and like I've watched it so many times, like I'm not gonna miss what's happening. Like I can just watch it for 2 seconds and be like, I know what's going on.
I think another thing I like to do when I'm trying to focus is I get cozy and I have things that are fun, like a fun drink that I enjoy.
I think
wearing the coziest jumper that I have.
Having like everything you could need next to you, so you don't have to go up and like get up and like get your phone. So like have water, have a cup of tea, have a snack by your side, lip balm, a phone charger, like whatever you could need while studying, have it there. So that once you sit down, you can focus and like lock in for like an hour or whatever without having to be like, I need to go get on my lip balm, and then you get distracted. So I think that's good. But I think just you're gonna have to just lock your phone away. I think that's like the only way, at least for me, that I can properly focus.
One other thing, and this might be a bit too out of your budget, but one thing that really helps me just zone in and focus on is my walking pad. So I have a walking pad and like a standing desk thing, and I, to be honest, it's not like I'm using it every single day, but when I do use it and when I really need to focus, especially when I'm working and I need to focus on something with work and I need to just not be distracted, for some reason the motion of walking really helps me focus. And I don't know what it is. I think it's something in your brain where
I guess you've got
just something to focus
on. Your body's
on.
Already moving, so like
it's like
you can't
that
distract.
energy.
There's not other things going on in your head.
That like not nervous energy, but that sort of agitated energy that gets pent up when you're just sat down, like isn't there. It's
like, I think runners say, like when you're running, you're so focused on like breathing and like being like doing that run that you can't think of anything else. So I guess it's kind of similar to that.
I think so, and sitting down obviously just physically it kind of hurts after a while. So obviously if you can somehow move while you're doing the thing that you need to be doing, I think that's quite helpful. But I know that obviously a walking pad is out of quite a lot of people's budget, but
Yeah.
they are getting a bit cheaper. And
They're about £100, I think.
if you think it's something that could really help you, then I would definitely say like maybe save up for it.
Or ask for it for Christmas or something if you are able to.
Yeah, I think it's a really good option.
I think another thing for focusing is noise cancelling headphones. That helps a lot. Like if you live in a house with lots of other people, or like when I used to live at home, my mum would like start hoovering, or like I'd hear my parents talking and then I'd get distracted. So having like noise cancelling headphones, again, they are quite expensive, but you can get like the AirPods Pro, like the small ones. Obviously, they cost a lot of money.
You could probably get secondhand ones on Marketplace for a bit cheaper.
Yeah, but yeah, noise cancelling headphones definitely helped me when I was like studying. So I'd have my like study music playing and then try and like lock it in and write my essay. But yeah, that's probably what we would say for in terms of studying. I'm so glad I don't have to study anymore though, so I feel bad for anyone that is. We've also had a few questions about like posting on social media and like our kind of tips for like growing a following. So I thought I would answer a few of those at the end now. Someone said, I'm in a very saturated online community. How do you come up with new ideas? So I feel like that is so hard because there are so many creators on social media and it can be hard to like come up with something original.
Well, you're pretty much in the most saturated online community of fashion
and beauty. Yeah, so I think it can be so hard, and especially if you're starting out now. I feel like I obviously started quite a few years ago where there was less creators, so I'm kind of lucky in the fact that I got some of my followers then.
But I think you have got your own lane kind of, because you create very specific things about self-love, and obviously other people do that, but you do it in your own way. And so I think that's the thing, is to think about what is your personal
skills,
unique thing or point of view that is a bit different.
I think that there can be so many things that can like differentiate yourself from your content. Like for example, Alex Earl, I feel like she's like one of the biggest US TikTokers now, and I feel like her content is very fashion based and beauty based, but she is known for her personality because she talks in every single video to the camera, and she's always like a bit chaotic and like going out and partying, and like people relate to that. So that's kind of her like niche. And then there's some other creators I follow where like their editing is really cool, and that's why I watch their videos. So I feel like you just kind of have to learn what works for you. And I feel like with social media, it's a lot of trial and error. You're better off posting 100 random videos, seeing which one does well, and then once you know, then making more of that type. So for me, like I know I have like a few kind of different niches, but one of the things that always does well for me is like the cool editing. So when I do like two of me standing next to each other, and like I remember the first ever video I posted of that kind of editing style, it blew up, and I was like, oh, like this is done well, let's try another one. I posted another one, that blew up, and literally every single time I post a video like that, it's guaranteed to like get a certain amount of views,
because it's something different that you don't see every day.
And like not every fashion creator is doing that. So
and some people think that you have a twin.
Literally some people are like, I prefer the one on the other, like the one on the right's fat, and I'm like, it's actually me twice, like it's just a different angle. So yeah, I think having something interesting about whether it's your editing, your personality, just finding that thing that does well. And I think you're not going to know what that is until you just try and post and see what does well.
Yeah, and I think don't overthink it. I've definitely been caught in the trap before of overthinking, overanalyzing. There's all these podcasts and TikTok's accounts
like those
about how to improve your strategy, but the reality is if you don't have an interesting idea or something that people want to watch, then no matter how much you strategize about it, it's not going to do well.
And those accounts that are like, jump on this trend, you must do this trend, use this sound, I'm like, but actually if you're just getting views because it's a trend, people aren't actually following it your account for you. They're just following the trend, and then once the trend moves on to something else, they're not going to stay and like watch your videos. So I feel like you have to make it something unique about either you, your editing style, the thing you talk about online, like something that's unique to you, and that is going to bring people coming back.
And also just thinking about, you know, what do you actually want to achieve? Like, I guess everyone maybe wants to go viral, but even if you go viral, like I've gone viral before, but it's not necessarily led to anything useful that I've really wanted, or I don't know. It's not always like, the goal.
What's your goal in posting? Like, I feel like when I started social media at first, I just wanted to be like an Instagram model. Like I wanted just for people to think I was like pretty, or like those people that go viral just for posting like their face. But then now I'm like, oh, I don't want to just be
Yeah,
known
what's
for
that
like
gonna get
looking
you?
good, or even just for having a good outfit. I feel like I would rather be known for like helping people or like bringing awareness to topics, like when I post about my back problems or like body positivity stuff. Like I'd rather be known for that and like have more of a change in the world than
Yeah.
just be known for like a certain random thing.
And that probably helps you be more okay with it and actually feel good about posting.
Well, yeah, because if your whole online brand is about being pretty, I feel like that would be really bad for your mental health, because you would feel like you can't post with no makeup on. You can't.
Yeah, what if your skin got really bad, or you got sick, or you just, I don't know, just
there
suddenly,
would be such a pressure to that. And like when I first started posting on Instagram, that's what I was doing, like selfies, very fashion, like kind of, I was inspired by like Molly May and like all these kind of creators that always had this perfect feed. Yeah. Whereas now I'm like, actually, I wasn't really achieving anything in doing that. Like, what was I helping? I was probably making other girls feel bad about themselves.
And I do think that the internet has changed, and I just don't think those kind of people just don't take that kind of content on face value anymore.
Yeah.
People don't just believe that everyone's life is that amazing.
Yeah,
And
I think the difference with Molly May is her Instagram is amazing and all her pictures are very beautiful, but then she shows her real personality on YouTube, and she really does open up on her YouTube, and like she posts about feeling rubbish and like feeling not confident in herself. So I feel like she shows that side of herself more. So then when you see her feed post, it's like, yes, it's beautiful, but I know that like this day she was feeling bad about herself because she talked about it on YouTube. So it's more like you see the different sides. Okay, I feel like we've answered quite a few questions, and our laptop is actually about to die, so we're gonna have to leave you guys here. But I really hope,
professional setup here.
Yeah, very professional. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure you follow us on our Instagram and TikTok, and then also give us a little follow or review on whatever podcast listening platform you're on, whether that's YouTube or Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, wherever you're listening to us.
And go outside and touch some grass.
Yeah, get off your phone today. Go on a little walk if you can. But yeah, I really hope you're all having a good week, and we will see you next Wednesday for another episode of My Big Sister podcast.
Bye.
Bye, guys.